Hey Neppers, it's me, Wild Neptune. So, Prika's kit has just released, and we're gonna take a look at it right now. Alright, Supporter Sniper Rifle Burst 2, code Water. First skill, let's get the show started. Activates when attacking at full charge, affects all allies. Projectile damage 20% for 3 seconds, pierce damage up to 13.09% for 3 seconds, and attack 20% of the caster's attack for 3 seconds. The 3 seconds doesn't really matter because charge time is 1 second, reload is 2, so with the 1 line of charge speed, I believe you can basically get this up to 100% the entire time. Affects only when in performance status, affects self, potency of HP restored up by about 50% continuously, and also gains pierce continuously. Skill 2, One More Song, activates when entering full burst, affects self. Max HP up 20% for 10 seconds, activates when sing along, which is in Mint's kit, takes effect while Prika is in performance status. Encore. Function. Extends the duration of performance for Prika and strengthens allies. Affects members who initiated sing along. Assign part singing. This effect is continuous and cannot be removed. Affects all allies. Performance duration up 21 seconds. Affects all allies. Attack damage up 25% for 10 seconds. And affects self cooldown of burst skill up 21 seconds. Which, when we get to the burst skill, you'll see that this doesn't really matter. Affects all allies. This is the burst skill. Get ready for an amazing show. Cooldown 40 seconds, which again doesn't really matter. Performance. Function. Strengthens allies and restores HP. Restores 3.04% of the caster's final max HP, which remember we also buffed. Adds max HP every second for 25 seconds. This effect cannot be removed, and also charge damage of 25% for 25 seconds. This also cannot be removed. Now, a lot to kick in here, so let's break it down. Alright, so you see right here, 40 seconds, but that does not really matter because her skill 2 will continuously increase the duration of the performance every time you enter full burst by 21 seconds. So this basically lasts the entire fight after you use it, which is pretty nuts for a buff that just keeps on going. Which means that once you use Prika's burst skill, which is going to be the first burst skill you use in the fight, you no longer have to use it ever again. In fact, you can't use it ever again during that fight, unless you kind of sit there and just don't do anything, I suppose. But you're likely not going to do that. Now, let's take a look here at Mint skills one more time, just to get a refresher on what she actually does. So remember that normally Mint's burst skill, you have to go into dancing first and then go into singing in order to get her mega buffs for the singing. So remember, sing along, which we saw in Prika's kit, with the buffs is going to be attack damage, max ammo, and crit damage too. And then when she is in singing mode, Mint that is, she's going to give us crit rate, projectile explosion damage, and pierce damage also. So a bunch of very good and potent buffs. Now, unfortunately here, the wording on how this actually works in relation to like Mint's kit is not the clearest thing. Best like case interpretations is that basically this forces Mint to be in singing mode the entire time. And she just keeps getting the singing buffs for the entire fight. If this is how that works, that is like pretty insane, because what it might do, and again, it's not very clear based on what I'm reading here what it actually does. And this is a problem too with like Nikke's skill descriptions, where it isn't always clear exactly what it does. Is that you start with Prika, okay, and then you go into Mint, and you use Mint's burst, okay, and you force Mint to go into singing. Now, whether or not this still takes a rotation of getting Mint into singing from dancing first is unsure. I think it does. Like, so I'm pretty sure you go Prika, Mint, Mint, Mint. I keep going over like that, and you just keep getting all those buffs over and over again. Um, that's the only thing that really makes sense because otherwise, Prika doesn't really do any. Prika doesn't really change anything for Mint. So that's what I'm assuming it does. But like I said, not very clear exactly how it works. Um, Now, if it doesn't work, if it does work the way that I think it does, that's really insane because you're getting all these insane buffs from Prika. Yes, you lose the sustain buffs from Mint overall, but that doesn't matter when Prika herself is giving these insane sustain buffs by herself anyway. Um, but yeah, this is looks like to be an extremely potent combo. If you remember, a couple weeks ago, we theorized with teams like this with Mint, where in Raid we used the Miranda comp in order to take advantage of Mint's second rotation of her Mega Burst, and this actually proved to be an improvement over other Burst 2s in the scenario, like Ada, Grave, and the like. And so, which is like good, right? As a standalone unit, Mint was already a decent unit overall. Not a game changer, but a good unit. Unfortunately, now this team is dead. At least the one with Mint. Obviously, a team like this will probably still exist, just because Miranda is a good unit overall and a good buffer. But also, some people too use this with Zwei for the Union Raid. And unfortunately, this team is like super dead. Because Zwei was not used in solo raid with her treasure, even with Electric Week, and I don't see her being used in the future now. So yeah, Zwei had like that one Union raid to do something, and now well she is gone again. So rip her. Unfortunately. So yeah, so like what's it gonna be now? Like really interested to see. Like let's put in the burst 2. I guess Naga, she can cosplay as Prika right now. If it is permanent singing for this overall, and just the crit rate and everything, the crit damage. Also remember, it is going to be explosion damage. So, like buffs and everything, or piercing buffs, right? So we're looking at snipers and we're looking at rocket launchers that are going to be the things that we're going to want to use it with. So we're looking at obviously like Cindy, Neo Neon, Pierce. So like maybe it thinks of course, Alice was going to work. Again we have Snow White, stuff like that. Like Lib and Neo Neon combo is something you might want to take a look at overall. For the combo too, and then obviously you're gonna have to have a City or Burst 1. So take your pick of which one you actually want to use. Like Anise is going to be obviously I think the premier one right now, and the real question is this duo going to out duo the current top ones, which are going to be like Crown Main Mast, Crown Privity, and stuff like that. So yeah, like we'll be looking at like Anise. I suppose. Well, let me take this off because so like yeah, looking at like Anise, Lita, Moran, Siren, but theoretically here, the only ones you're really gonna be thinking about using for this combo will be Anise or Siren, maybe Moran, depending. But I do think you'll get more benefit out of what's over here. Although maybe if you're running something like a Cinderella comp over here, because yes, she does benefit from the explosion damage. Maybe Rouge is something that you might consider using in the slot also. Yeah, like very like again less flexible because it is 2 burst 2s, and the 2 burst 2s only buff real. I mean they buff everything, right? Because like they're like generic buffs also. But you really want to maximize your explosion or your piercing overall. But looks like to be a pretty strong duo, at least based on the best interpretation of the skills. Remember though, even though Prika is coming out and Mint's story is ending, we do not have to rush to pull Mint because she still has an entire week left. So you will get to see people test them both out just to see exactly how the skills actually interact. Because what's said on paper and what people interpret on paper might not be what actually happens in game. Unfortunately, again, this is something that has been an issue with Nikke skill descriptions, where they are not always the clearest things in the world. So yeah, I will be pulling Prika when she comes out and doing the test. I'll have a video for on that hopefully pretty shortly after she comes out. Yeah, and that's really all I have right now. Put down in the comments below. Are you excited for Prika? And do you think that the Mint Prika combo is going to be the new best duo combo in the game? Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, found it helpful, a subscription, a like, all the good stuff, greatly appreciated. Anyways, I'm Wild Neptune. Been a good one. Till next time.